What's up, Buff fans? I'm Harrison Simeon alongside Xavier Michnewicz, and we are here in Kansas City at the Marriott Courtyard Downtown Convention Center. And we were just at T-Mobile Center to watch the Colorado Buffaloes in the Big 12 tournament. Women's basketball hoopers have been balling out. They won yesterday against Houston, and our flight unfortunately got canceled, so we couldn't make that game. But they took down Arizona in a thrilling contest, 61-58. And, what's your initial takeaways from the first two games, Xavier?
So the Houston game was a rough win.
Yeah.
Right? That's a team you should blow out by 20. 33 turnovers is rough. But it was still survive and advance. That's what J.R. Payne said in the press conference. And, the Arizona game was a great win. It was a comeback win. They were down 11 at one point. But, two good wins, and now they face number one seed.
Yeah, and just to start with the Houston game, that 33 turnovers, most in like 20 years, I believe. And then in Arizona, they were down by double digits multiple times in the first quarter. They started down 14-3, and then Arizona started to pull away in the third quarter. They got hot, shot over 60% from the field in that quarter, but Tabitha Betson, Kennedy Sanders were the big standouts. They came through scoring 30 combined points.
Yep.
And, really for the Buffs, that's a big momentum boost into a big game against TCU and top seed.
Talking about Kennedy Sanders, she was the hot hand in the fourth quarter. She had 7 points early in that fourth and pretty much single-handedly brought the Buffs back into this game. She was humble in the press conference, saying that it was a lot of give and go, drawn up plays for her, but I think she proved the doubters wrong, which you were one of the doubters.
Well, yeah, in the Houston game, she was one of the largest proponents of all the turnovers. A lot of the freshmen, her, Aaron Powell, even some of the seniors, Kendall Wetta, had some large turnover issues, some postseason jitters, I guess you could say. But for the Buffs, they fighting for their lives, essentially fighting for their seasons, need to win tomorrow against TCU to continue their hopes of making March Madness. What do you think is the biggest key for the Buffs to make a win? Because there's not going to be much room for error.
Limit turnovers. Limit turnovers. That's been the story this entire tournament. Houston had 33 turnovers. I think the biggest thing is you got to limit turnovers. Fortunately for the Buffs, TCU's last in turnovers, forcing only 13 a game in the Big 12. But CU's now tied for last with Texas Tech averaging 18.2 turnovers a game. So I think the biggest key for the Buffs is limit turnovers.
Just play clean. They showed today. They had one turnover in the fourth, and we were able to pull out a win. When they can just play cohesively, I think that's what Coach Payne said today, is that when they play cohesively, they can do anything. So, Leor Garzon had 9 points in that fourth quarter, really played well in crunch time. Her cold-blooded demeanor, kind of, like I said, she doesn't really ever get too expressive. But today had some big shots in the closing moments. So it's going to be a big game against TCU, and we're just wrapping up day 2 of this Big 12 tournament, just going game by game. Looks like there might be an upset on the horizon. Currently, Texas Tech 10 seed up on 6-seeded Utah by 8 at halftime. You'll obviously see this video when that's over. But we're going to go game by game, predict the rest of the tournament. Some huge standouts. Addie Brown, we just saw for Iowa State, score 41 points.
41.
And the Cyclones win over Arizona State. What has been your favorite part of covering these games so far, even though we missed a lot of day one?
I would say my favorite part is Audi Crooks. Audi Crooks, as a Denver Nuggets fan myself, reminds me of Jokic, as she just creates opportunities for other players to score. And a lot of touch around the rim.
And we saw her play for Iowa State, obviously, and then going into the next couple of days, we'll talk about her as potentially Big 12 Player of the Year, even though Haley Van Lith, who the Buffs will play tomorrow, won the award. Obviously, maybe just going for the better team.
Right.
But definitely a lot of high-level basketball on display. Next, the quarterfinal matchups, we'll just go by game by game. We'll predict them. So tomorrow, first game of the day will be 4-seeded West Virginia against 5th-seeded Kansas State. Big-time matchup, really tightly knit. Who you got?
So Kansas State is with Ayoka Lee, without Ayoka Lee, probably for the rest of this tournament, probably up until March Madness. So I think West Virginia Mountaineers are a good squad. J.J. Quinterly, she's a great player. I think West Virginia will take that game.
Yeah, personally, I actually think Kansas State's going to ride a little momentum. I think they beat West Virginia. There's the rest versus rust sort of deal.
True.
And, with 3 games in 3 days, it's going to be tough for Kansas State to continue their high level of play. They kind of coasted by UCF today, but I actually got Kansas State in that game. So the next one up is our Colorado Buffaloes taking on TCU. TCU's just 3 losses on the year.
Yeah.
Number 8 team in the country, Big 12 regular season champs. Daunting task for the Buffs. Who you got, though?
I think TCU ends the Buff season, right? I think the CU really has to play like their cleanest game of the year, their most complete game of the year, and if they really want to win this game. But I don't know if we've ever seen a complete game from the Buffs this year. Maybe their closest being their comeback win against West Virginia. But I think TCU wins, but I think the Buffs maybe keep it a little close. I think TCU wins by 8.
Yeah, I agree with that, about that number. I think the Buffs keep it within single digits. They didn't get blown out necessarily. They lost by about 13 when they played in Fort Worth in January, I believe. And that was a game where Frida Foreman scored 1 point. She's obviously still out with an injury. Neimer due out with an injury, but scored 0 in that game. And then Jade Masagayo struggled from the field, had 14 points, but not very an efficient day. So I think it
Fouled
could be,
out.
Fouled out. Same with Kendall Wetta.
Yep.
So I think the Buffs may play more up to how they played today, but they're going to have to avoid giving up any big runs. I think starting fast is the biggest way the Buffs can win. Is just not falling into that 14-3 hole, because TCU is too high level a team to just let the Buffs coast back and have it tied by half.
Whoa.
I think so I think TCU ends up getting the win, but the Buffs make it competitive.
Yeah, Sedona Prince is also a hell of a player.
We didn't mention her
yet.
yet.
I know Haley Van Lith won Big 12 Player of the Year, but arguably Sedona Prince is the best player on that team. She averages the most points. She averages 9 rebounds, 9.4 rebounds, which is just about a double-double.
Yeah,
17 points, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks a game.
Right. She's a veteran, as we've described.
A veteran, yes, veteran.
So we'll put that lightly.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got a really interesting matchup. Baylor, 2 seed, takes on 7 seed Iowa State and Howdy Crooks. Who you got?
I think Iowa State wins that game. After that performance they just had tonight, there are players on that team that just couldn't miss. Obviously, what's her name? Addie Brown. Addie Brown had 41 points. She had 17 in the first quarter. And Howdy Crooks, she was in foul trouble a little bit, but I think
she ended up with about 20.
She still ended up with 20 points. I think still 7 rebounds. Yeah. I think Iowa State upsets.
Yeah, Baylor. I actually agree with you. So, Howdy Crooks averaging 23 points a game for the regular season, and she leading scorer in not only the Big 12 but Power 5, close to it. So I think Iowa State takes the victory. They had a really nice game. Didn't get a ton of stops against Arizona State, so I think that'll be a key.
Yeah, very high-scoring game.
And Howdy Crooks versus Aaronette Von Lay is must-see TV.
Oh, yeah.
We know very well Aaronette Von Lay, former Buffalo, that can be, battle of the bruiserweights, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so lastly, we've got either Texas Tech or Utah going up against number 3 seed Oklahoma State. Who you got in that game? Obviously, we're looking at maybe Texas Tech right now, but either way, who do you think?
I think Oklahoma State beats either or. Utah's a really solid team. Beat the Buffs by 19 this year, I think. So I think Oklahoma State destroyed the Buffs in their matchup in Stillwater. But I think Oklahoma State takes that game either or. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I see. If Utah was looking good tonight, I actually might have sided with Utah because I like their Pac-12 history. Their program, resume. But I think Oklahoma State may just take advantage of either a Texas Tech team that's a little bit over their skis, or maybe Texas Tech pulls off the upset. I don't know. I doubted them going into today against the Utes, but I think Oklahoma State moves on. We didn't really choose too many upsets. I guess maybe I chose too low. Or you chose one lower seed. I chose one higher seed. Yeah. But yeah. Moving forward, you have West Virginia versus TCU in the semi. Who you got in that game?
I think TCU advances to the final. I think TCU is still just a great team. They most complete. I think they might be one of the most complete teams in the tournament. Maybe besides Baylor. But I think
you just got the Horned Frogs rolling along.
The Horned Frogs, yeah.
They've been tough to beat. They've only lost 3 teams, and one of them is South Carolina and 2 other ranked sides. So, yeah. But I personally, Kansas State, they have beaten TCU, and that was without Ioka Lee. She was hurt at that point. Gave the Horned Frogs their last loss to date. Though I do think TCU gets revenge, moves on to the championship. And Haley Van Lith, I think, has a really good game in that one. So moving forward, you've got, or I guess we both have, Iowa State versus Oklahoma State. And who you got in that game?
Iowa State moves on. I think Iowa State moves on. I think they need. I think they need this game if they want to be a bubble team right now. I think right now they're out of the tournament, right? And a win over Oklahoma State, a ranked team, I think will bump them up. And Audi Crooks, I'm telling you, she's a great player.
We're agreeing a lot today. I've got the Cyclones too. I made a little prediction for another publication, but I have Iowa State moving on. We have the same championship game, so TCU, Iowa State. Who you got?
I think Iowa State pulls off the upset.
Man. We're twins today.
I know.
I got it's the best player versus the best team.
Yeah.
And man, that's gonna be
really
good. Another great battle of the bigs with Prince and Crooks. But I've got Iowa State taking home the Big 12 championship game. They overperformed and were in the championship game last year. I think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder this year.
Yep.
Got off to a sluggish start and didn't come into the tournament ranked. But I think overall, they have a really good team. And we saw it today. Addie Brown, 41 points. If it's not Crooks, it could be someone else. They were getting threes out of the water.
Well, I do recall another point guard on the team had 13 points. It wasn't like Addie Brown had 41 and kind of overshined the rest of everybody, but they still got other players that can score on that team. And I think it might be too much for TCU to handle.
Yeah, I think they'll have an extra win in the tournament. They'll be going in there maybe a little bit more tired, but with a little bit more momentum. I think TCU might get, I don't know about exposed because I think they're going to win, but I think Kansas State has their number, might show Iowa State how to play to that standard, and I think Audi Crooks comes through, tournament MVP.
Well, as you said before about Russ, TCU's been off these past 2 games, and Iowa State has been able to figure out all their problems. If they've really had problems, right? Have been able to figure out their problems going into these last couple games, and I think that's going to be the factor. Is that TCU had two byes in the first 2 rounds?
Yeah.
So
I agree. Well, that's all for us. Tomorrow, Colorado takes on TCU in a kind of a David versus Goliath showdown. Buffs will play for their season. Essentially, they win. They might have a chance of making March Madness. So make sure you tune in 12:30 Mountain Time, 1:30 local time here in Kansas City. And that's all. Alongside Xavier Michnewicz, I am Harrison Simeon, and you're watching Skillball Sports, and I mispronounced your name.
Michnewicz.
My bad.
It's all good.
We had a conversation before this video
that
was not fun for me. And you heard it here first.